Can I close this?
I found my way home across the Grand Mirage.
Hi, welcome to the Alison Arngrim Show. I'm Alison Arngrim. Okay, some of you may recognize me as Evil Nellie Olson. But luckily tonight, I am Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And here on the Alison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good. The movies and the TV shows that made us feel good and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. Now, I always think it'll make you feel good. I don't know if this episode's going to make you feel good, but we definitely have someone who's trying to make the world a better place and doing a good job of it. Horrifying information. It will be any of you. We're all at that age, around my age. All of us have a relative in some kind of care or about to be in some kind of care. We all know this. Everyone is in a retirement home or a halfway hospice, a thing, something care. What happens when you go to those homes? And we hear stories about people. I have friends who even stayed part briefly for post-operative in like an elder care home, and we're like, what the hell is this place? And you hear these stories, horror stories coming out of there. And what we always hear is they're underfunded. And how would you feel if you found out they actually are pocketing vast sums of money? Well, not. Yeah. So we have someone who's getting to the bottom of this as a documentary, is doing amazing things to try to help people in this situation. The amazing producer director, Susie Singer Carter.
Hello.
Big applause and everything.
Well, there's my applause. Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be at this juncture after we've been working on this doc for 3 years and just intense. And when my mom passed away in 2022, we just decided I have to do a documentary about this, because when I found out actually what was really propagating all of my stress for the prior 6 months, I realized I had seen and I knew too much, that if I didn't share it, I would be culpable.
Right. You had to. I mean, and you're a producer anyway. This is what you do. You've done other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Writer, producer, director, everything.
This is your art form to begin with, and here
Right.
your mom was actually being mistreated in one of these homes. It's like, yes. So hello.
Yeah. So and the truth is that I couldn't understand. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but I couldn't understand how it was so despicable, and yet nobody who had already been through it had come out as publicly in a grand way, because it's not like it's been going on for a few years. This is like been going on for close to 60 years, if not more, right? If not more. So the truth. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to close this down, and I'm so sorry. Podcasts, bear with me. Okay. So the truth is that I couldn't believe that it hadn't been done yet. And so but I understand why. That's what I was going to tell you, is that I understand why, because when you've been living in that stress and turmoil and frustration and sadness and all the words, all the feels, when it's over, it's over. You don't want to look back.
Right. They don't want to speak out while their mom or their dad or their grandmother is in the home, because what might they do to them if I'm going to the press and to elected officials while they're in the home? Oh my God, I'm going to have to get them out of there. Right. And then once they've passed, it's like your life, you've already been drained financially in many cases, and of course emotionally. So yeah, the victims of this, they're not in a position to really come out. So you have managed to, thank God you're a producer, who said, all right, well, we're doing a documentary and that's the end of this nonsense.
Right. And honestly, I didn't think of it during the time. So we back up a second. It's during COVID, almost the end of COVID, not quite. But I have a podcast called Love Conquers Alls, and it was based on a project that I did with Valerie Harper. It was a short film called My Mom and the Girl, which was based on my mom who had Alzheimer's. And I I watched Dope Sick. I don't know if you've seen Dope Sick. It's a
Dope sick.
miniseries on Hulu, and it was phenomenal. And Peter Sarsgaard plays the main prosecutor, the federal
Yes.
prosecutor, right? Who goes up
Going after the
against,
pharmaceutical companies
right,
because they were complicit in all the things that led up to all of these people all over
the
the country being strung
OxyContin.
out on
Yeah,
OxyContin. Yep, yep,
the
yep.
OxyContin crisis. And Rick Montcastle was the man, the gentleman that Peter Sarsgaard was playing. And in the final episode, his partner comes to him and says, I think we have the next case, and it's another pharmaceutical, and it's called, and they're going to go up against Abbott Labs, who are off marketing a drug that they manufacture called Depakote, and it's used to basically chemically restrain people in nursing homes. And I was like, well, what? Because that's exactly what happened to my mom 8 years
Jesus.
prior. So my mom was, although she had Alzheimer's, she was completely healthy physically. And one day she suddenly she's immobile, she's incontinent, she's barely there. And for a couple months, I had no idea. I thought that her Alzheimer's had progressed. And I found out that she's on this drug that's a black label drug. It's actually for anti-seizure for epilepsy. So Rick prosecuted them and won a judgment of like $1.5 billion, one of the largest judgments against a single drug. And I said, I got to have this man on my podcast talking about chemical restraints, because this is something that's so prevalent. And chemical restraint, this isn't just a side note, it's actually really important to understand that the chemical restraining, not only is it abuse, but because it leads to neglect. So if they're using it to basically tether your loved one's not going to be moving for hours, could be sleeping. We've all gone into places where you see zombies, what I call
Everybody's
zombies.
out cold.
They're all out cold because they're on, some kind of opiate.
So they're putting it out with the idea of like, oh, we're going to give them some sedatives so they don't hurt themselves for the patients who are agitated or violent.
Correct.
But instead it's like, well, if we give it all to them, we don't have to serve lunch.
You don't have to serve lunch. And they also don't get, if they're incontinent, they don't get changed. So they're sitting in their, pardon the bluntness, but they're sitting in their urine, they're sitting in their feces, and they're getting UTIs, and they're getting bed sores,
That's always a red flag. If you have someone in care and you hear they're getting multiple UTIs, those things can happen, but it's also a red flag to look for. Like, really? So how often are they going to happen? Okay.
They're emblematic of neglect, as is bed sores are a never event according to CMS, which is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So that right there tells you if someone has if a bed sore's gone past stage 1, there's 4 stages. Yeah, they're called, that is neglect, pure and simple. And so I'll just back up a little bit again about Rick Montcastle. When he came, I had him onto my podcast right in the throes of what was going on with my mom. Basically, she was not getting the care she needed. She was going in and out of the hospital. She was admitted into the hospital with a stage 4 bed sore. And the hospital called me to tell me this because they didn't want to take responsibility for it.
They weren't talking.
Right. So I called the nursing home, which is a 5-star nursing home here in Los Angeles. And I said,
wait, this is a 5-star. This isn't we went to the terrible, cheap, cinder block joint 1 star, the bad place in the terrible part of town. These things happen. This was a 5-star, the highest rating nursing home. This was supposed to be the nice place, the expensive place.
The place that had a 3-year waiting list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the place that I used to say on my podcast, I can sleep at night. Mom's being taken care of.
This is the posh place that everybody wants to go. This is like, we'll go to the good nursing home.
Yeah. Right. If you can get in. So when I called the nursing home and said, why didn't anyone tell me that she had a pressure sore? Well, it didn't happen here. And
where would it have happened?
Well, on the way to the hospital, of course, right?
The drive over.
Yeah. So the thing, so that was the beginning of the slippery slope for me. The bold-faced lying, the gaslighting, the things all the things. She's 89. She has Alzheimer's. She's okay. We'll just give her morphine. Let's just keep her with a feeding tube. She should have nothing by mouth. Like, why don't we just like let's just euthanize her then, because what is she doing? What kind of life is this? I could not wrap my head around it until I had Rick Montcastle on my podcast, and he said off the line, he said, I want to talk to you about what's going on with your mom, because I also prosecuted nursing homes federally for over 20 years. And he said, what's happening to you is not an individual thing. It's not just exclusive to your mom's facility. This is a systemic crisis. And
this is happening all over the place.
All the time. And he said, and then he proceeded to tell me why and how and what. And I was like, this is unbelievable that we don't know this. This is unreal. So, and he basically explained the business model, why it was so bad, the fact that there's a nursing home lobby who is extremely powerful, more powerful than the pharmaceutical lobby.
Which is terrifying right there, because who's more powerful than the pharmaceutical lobby?
NRA.
That's about it.
Yeah. But no, extremely powerful. And what makes them even more powerful is that they're not on anyone's radar. And because there is so much ageism and ableism that has permeated our society and our healthcare system, because the healthcare system knows nothing about elder care, honestly, and particularly anything to do with dementia. There's a huge lack of knowledge and education in that area. So people that have a cognitive decline are massively marginalized and looked over, and it's very easy to neglect and abuse them because they don't have a voice sometimes. Right?
Well, there's also the element of embarrassment and shame. There are people who don't want to talk about it, that they have a relative in a nursing home or a care facility, because people are going to say, oh, you put them in home, why aren't they at your house? And it's not realizing it's like, oh, because I don't have a hospital in my house. And
exactly.
I don't have a team of nurses and equipment in my home.
Thank you for understanding that, and thank you for saying that, because I've had many people on social say to me, well, your mom was suffering. Why didn't you take her home? My mom was in a nursing home because that was supposed to be the safest place for her, because most of us aren't able to set up a hospital situation, not hospital, but a situation where someone who is immobile can be turned carefully. You need two people. They need to be taken out of the bed, to take a shower, to get into a chair.
Not everyone can do it. What about the people who live in studio apartments?
Right?
Are they supposed to move both of their parents?
Don't have a bedroom,
it's not a reality for most people. And then what do you do? And then if their Alzheimer's has progressed severely, that's a very serious matter. You do need a professional to work with them. One person 100%. By themselves cannot do this.
And if you're on Medicaid, you can't.
And you went to the 5-star top home.
Yeah. And Medicaid doesn't pay. Medi-Cal, we're in California. Medi-Cal, Medicaid doesn't pay for home care. So and chances are someone who's lived long enough is going to run through their savings, like my mom did.
I have friends like this who do I care for my mother at home? I have a friend he's probably watching this now, who was caring for his mother at home, and then eventually found, because it became a thing of, well, their insurance covers this but not this, and it covers that but not this.
Exactly.
So if you have her here, then you'd have to pay for all of this with the money you do not have. And if you put her here, that's like, what? And so finally found a place that would take her, that was a decent place that he can visit her, because it's like, no, I would have her home, but it's not physically possible.
No,
and it's not financially possible. They won't pay for stuff. There's the complications that people face trying to take care of their parents are unbelievable. And then people are ashamed or embarrassed. People are ashamed or embarrassed that anybody in their family is sick. People want to talk about if somebody just got sick and was in the hospital. So people don't want to talk about that they have a relative in a nursing home. And so they count on that element to also limit the number of people who are going to say anything.
Well, yeah, and it's such a disservice to the people we love, and it's also, a disservice to our future self. Because if we are ageist and ableist, it's only, we're only doing a disservice because we will be there. So
Yeah.
we are
What are you planning on doing when you get, hello, somebody's going to have to put you somewhere.
right. So you are an ist against yourself, right? And your future self, which one of our experts who I love so much, and who talks about ageism and says that specific thing. Ashton Applewhite, who says, you're just turning against your own future self, and how is that smart?
Well, in one of the reports you sent me, they have a quote from former First Lady from Rosalind Carter,
Yeah.
who said there's four kinds of people in the world: those that have been caregivers, those that are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. We're
Yeah.
all going to the big bed at some point.
It's equal
And
opportunity. It's
if we
equal
live long enough,
opportunity.
yay. It's unbelievable. So you take your mother to this place. It is the 5-star. It is the fancy. It is the expensive home. And when did you first notice things going wrong?
Well, I think what was interesting, and we talked about it in the documentary, but we also kind of minimized it a little bit because people are so over COVID, but COVID really pulled the curtain back on what
Yeah,
was the
that's what people
problem.
found out. Yeah, yeah.
And none, we most of us went through going like there were so many times I would go to visit my mom, and I we live local, so I could see her as much as I want. And I'd go in and I'd think, she doesn't look right, or she's not bathed, or da da da. You can tell. But then you kind of go, you feel, should I complain? Just what you were talking about before. And maybe I'm just being stupid. Maybe I'm
I'm
being
being overprotective. She's fine.
Exactly, exactly. And then when COVID started and no one's allowed in to see their loved ones, nobody, zero. And they finally set up a system where you can Zoom with your loved one once a week. And when you're Zooming with somebody who's got Alzheimer's, that's not very helpful. Doesn't help them. It's very difficult for them to navigate, to understand that. What Week by week, my particular appointment was at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. And as the weeks went by, I saw my mom in bed. She's never out of her room. She's in bed during the day. She's not dressed. She's still got a gown on, and her hair's like this. And I'm going, is my mom sick? What's going on? The CNA who was, facilitating the Zoom, and she'd go, I don't know, Susie. Let me find out from the nurse. I just don't know.
I do not know.
We don't know, and so when I finally got to see her, it was like a year and a half before most of us got in to see our loved ones. That's a very long time. And most everybody was isolated and locked in their rooms because they're understaffed, because that is the business model, is to understaff, which is the root of all the evil.
This is the thing where it blew my mind. And I thought, I knew something was up because everybody's understaffed, everybody. And I was like, well, yeah, but there sure are a lot of people who work in nursing who are looking for jobs. So something's going wrong here. Because they're probably not paying them enough. Okay. So they're understaffed, underfunded. But what you discovered in this fabulous documentary, No Country for Old People, excellent title, because so true, that what has happened is the market has been venture capitalists and real estate investment trusts that they're buying up the homes. They're creating basically like a shell corporation. So they're actually profiting when you think about how many people are in the home, and everyone's paying thousands of dollars a month. They're actually pocketing the money and just not buying food and staff.
Right. It's even more it's more corrupt than that. Even it really mirrors criminal enterprise. It's not anything different. They're shielded. First of all, there's no transparency. So these corporations and these investment capitalists, they're shielded by their corporate veil, right? So there's no transparency. So they're safe.
You have no idea who really owns your nursing home.
Never.
It says something on the sign. That is not who is running your nursing home.
That's right. So then what they do is they do money laundering. So they set up these what's called related parties. And the
related parties.
Yes. And so that'll be the management company, that'll be the agency for nurses, it'll be your pharmaceutical, it'll be your pharmacy, all the things that you need they own, and then they jack up the prices.
Oh, wait. This is the old company store thing. So conflict of interest. So they own the nursing home and the pharmacy that supplies all the pills to all the
Right,
patients and the agency that they call
right.
to hire the nurses from the temp agency that sends over the nurses. They own
And the
that.
management
And they own
company
that.
and the real estate and all the
And
things.
the real
And then they say, and then CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, come down and say, very performatively, you need to staff. There needs a minimum staff. We need to, we need to do, we'd love
there's
to do
rules.
that.
There's laws about how many staff they're supposed to have. It's written down. There are
Yeah.
rules.
That was established in 1987 with the Nursing Home Reform Act, which, by the way, Kirk Douglas, I just did a post about this. I found out that he was doing a film. This is so interesting, you guys. He did a TV movie called Amos, and he was playing a neglected and abused nursing home resident. He thought that the script was exaggerated until the producer said, no, 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 we minimized it so it would get on TV. He marched his butt to Congress and said, what is going on? Like, I thought they were joking. No, there's millions of people worse than my character every single day, dying and being tortured. Get your act together. And he was the one, and they were like, well, what do you recommend, Mr. Douglas? And he said, I'm an actor. I'm just being a bullhorn. These people behind me are experts. You got the answers. Let's do it. Like, he was so verbal about it. And by the way, he was so instrumental in getting that bill passed. But now, 40 years later, it's the same issues because there's no oversight, there's no enforcement, and there's no penalties.
Because I said there's rules about how many, but so they come in and say you need to have this staff, and they say yeah, sure.
We don't have any money. We're broke. It's like we don't get enough from Medicaid and Medicare. We don't think it's not enough to actually take care of these people. So we need more. Can you pay us? Can you raise the billing? When we bill, we don't get enough for that. And what yes, they do. There's more than enough to pay. There's more than enough to pay and also make money.
Well,
I'm not saying they shouldn't make money.
As I flip through the tales of horror, a $1 billion Medicare fraud and money laundering scheme. There was one mention about in New York that pressing charges against a home in New York, and it was something about that. It was like, oh no, we don't have enough money to pay the staff, and they found it was something about $83 million in profit they were in fact making.
Yeah, that's a little bit, by the way. That's in the billions and trillions.
That's a small. That was like one place.
That's a piddle place. That's a piddle amount. But there's so much money, and the lobby. First of all, why are we still in the same position? Why doesn't traditional advocacy work? There's tons of amazing groups. Our fiscal sponsor who helped us, with a 501c3 status, so we can raise money. They are the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care, and Ralph Nader helped launch them in 1974. They're still fighting for the same things. They've been going to Congress for year after year after year. Why doesn't it? Why are there no changes? Because
the lobby is huge.
Lobby is paying millions and millions of dollars into our politicians' campaigns.
The report, you said multiple states are trying, state by state, to pass legislation stop that. And that was in New York. New York Attorney General Letitia James filed a lawsuit. They had 4 nursing homes, and there was a pattern of residents not receiving care, suffering neglect, mistreatment, humiliation, etc. They had been depriving the nursing homes of over $83 million that was intended for resident care.
Yes. By the way, folks, you're paying for that. That comes out.
Right, because that's money. Tax dollars.
So if it doesn't disturb you about older people, let it disturb you that that's your money that they're taking, and it's not earmarked for them. It's earmarked for you and your loved ones when you need it.
Well, and these related parties, these multiple shell corporations, in Michigan, you said 98 nursing homes in Michigan paid related parties, I guess with the pharmacy and the agency and all the people they have. $544.5 million over a 2-year period, and there was no oversight about that happening. That's a 12-hour shift. Because they have so few nurses, an average staff member gets about 25 minutes per person under the current staffing. And this is at the good place. So they're taking the money, they're getting the money because people are either paying it privately or the Medicare is, and they're not only keeping it, they're purchasing all the companies that do any business so that they're making it coming and going and sideways.
It's called tunneling. They're
Tunneling.
tunneling. They're tunneling the funds, and they get away with it. It's legal. It's a legal fraud, if that makes sense, because
It's a loophole. They have found a loophole in the law
they have learned to
that they
game
are
the system.
exploiting to game the system.
And what they're doing, and I hesitate saying this because I used to not say it out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud because all the other experts do. They are warehousing our loved ones, and they are warehousing people that are vulnerable, and because they do not have a voice. And they don't have,
They're not going to complain. What are they going to do? Who are they going to tell?
they don't have a choice either.
Yeah.
When I was very distressed and I was saying, my mother wants to eat, take this tube out of her and let me feed her. She's not aspirating. And even if she does, that's a better life than this. They said, we understand you're stressed. You can take her home. Well, they know you can't take her home. So what are you going to do? You really have no recourse, even though there's an ombudsman, program that's in place in all of our states. It's pretty much 90% volunteer, so there's not a lot of money behind
Volunteers. There's no professional people working as ombudsman at these offices.
It's volunteer. And by the way, the ombudsman program, there's the most amazing people. They are, and I say this with love and respect, they're toothless because of the system the way it is.
So they're trying, but they won't let them do anything.
Exactly. And there's not enough of them. And they only can help so much, and then when there's a crisis, like, horrible crises that need to be attended to now, like if you had a child in the same situation, there'd be a whole system barging in around it. You'd have Child Protective Services there in the middle of the night. If you call Adult Protective Services in the middle of the night and say, a resident was found on the floor, bloodied and raped. What do we do? Can you just give me the name and everything? We'll do a report and then I'll get back to you in a couple of days. That's it. What? Yep. What? And that's what happens because nobody cares. And the owners don't care because now that just becomes a drain on the resource. It's terrible. I feel like, because I feel like I'm just the Debbie Downer.
It's the harbinger of doom with it. So in this documentary, it's already aired on Amazon.
It's airing,
and that's going to be airing all the cable and networks, Roku, what have you. What do we see? What do we learn in this documentary? Because it covers your mother's case and the general sacking and pillaging.
All that stuff. You're going to learn so much that you didn't know, and stuff that you really need to know, because you don't want to go into this industry and go through a journey like I did without having any other knowledge, because you should know your rights. You should know what you can and can't do, so you don't put yourself in a vulnerable position, or at least mitigate as much as you can, right? And also don't get your cortisol levels so high because you're thinking that, my God, what am I doing? What planet am I on? Is this actually happening? I don't understand. Like, where's the humanity? So understand where it's coming from. Understand that probably that CNA is just burnt out and they're having moral injury because they can't do the job that they want to do, right? So it gives you compassion for what these people are going through. However, it also lets you know that you have to be a strong advocate. And even then you might not be able to succeed in the way you want to, in the way that the business model is now. What we need to do, and this is what we talk about towards in the third episode, towards the end, we talk about, what can we do as a collective, as a community, because we've lost community. So, and we've started a movement, a project called ROAR, which is Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform.
Nice.
And calling for all roariers to come aboard and roar for people who don't have a voice. And this kind of change, it's got to be a collective movement. It has to be. It has to be. The only currency that we have is as constituents, but that's powerful. So how can we circumvent or, and get in front of the lobby. That's with our
Right. You have
constituents.
to create your own lobby. You absolutely. I mean, you've talked about
That's
501c3.
constituents,
I
right?
presume you have a
Yes,
501c4. And so, yeah, because you have to have the only way to fight this when you have industries like this that have these enormous lobbies is to create a lobby for the citizens, for the victims of these laws and these loopholes to
right.
go in and do battle. So
We
what
must.
is there legislation currently pending that can alleviate any of this madness? I'm seeing like some state by state stuff they're trying.
This is the problem, is that yes, for instance, I'm very near and dear to my heart is the Essential Caregiver Act, which is basically because about 200,000 nursing home residents during COVID died before their time. They died before their time from failure to thrive, not from illness, not from COVID, but from failure to thrive because they were kept isolated.
And there were people who were neglected in there when they got COVID. It was like, and if they get COVID, you're bringing in the doctors and getting the drugs. No, they weren't. They just didn't they didn't treat them.
That's a daunting number, though, right, Alison? I mean,
Yeah,
200,000. And no, did you ever hear that number before? Like I didn't until I started doing my research. That's a huge number. That's a war. That's a war, and no one's talking about it. And these are people that died alone. I asked my expert who gave me that number and how many died alone. He said all of them, probably. So that is so tragic and so heinous and criminal and all the bad words. And so we can't fight it that way. We can't fight the way we were. We have to really get in. And you were talking about let me go back, and I went off track for a second. Because of the Essential Caregiver Act, I've seen that get so close. There was so much, so that they could get in. So if there's another if there's another pandemic, somebody that is a designated caregiver, family member, designated caregiver can get in. PPE provided,
have a test, have the gloves, have the mask, but be allowed in.
They are allowed in. Who would say no to that? Who? Why? It's only helping the places because you're alleviating some of the stress, right? 50 states, that's been going on since COVID. I actually did an advocacy video for them from every state, and it gets looked at. It gets delivered, and then it gets killed. So if something like that, so benign, that costs no money, it only makes sense, could save money because you're there as a free caregiver. How does that not get passed? So the truth is that we need to make sure that whatever regulations and legislation that does get passed or that already is in place is there's checks and balances. We need to have.
It sounds like there's no enforcement because you're saying there was that Elder Care Act that was passed after Kirk Douglas's outcry, that there's just no enforcement of it. There's laws and there's no the inspections are not happening in town. I would do they own the company that sends out the people that do the inspections too?
Often, or they pay them off, or they pay them. And they'll know or they'll alert the facility that they're going to be there on a certain day, and then everything is delicious and beautiful. And it's so egregious. It's you can't imagine it unless it was true. Like I can't make this stuff up. I cannot make this stuff up.
Are lawsuits being filed? Is more legislation being proposed?
Well, the lawsuits are so minimal anyway. There's caps in every state. So
but that's suing a nursing home. This would be like suing these companies
as criminally.
Right. Because if you're suing just a nursing home, but then suing the company that owns the 87 businesses and the 27.
Right. Try to find them.
Who are they?
In California, there was a franchise owned by a man named Shlomo, and it was Brius is the franchise, and he actually had his license revoked, and he continued. He stayed.
I mean about the no enforcement. The license was revoked, and he was still going. Okay.
And he was paying off someone that we know in Sacramento. So there's that. So, my whole thing is like, we as constituents, we need to shame our politicians. We need to tell them we know it that you're taking, pay, that you're being paid off to look away, to kill bills that are and not to enforce them. And it's unacceptable. And that's it. That's the power we have. And when I say it's the only power, it's very potent. That's the way other changes have been made. You have to take it to the streets. You have to let them know you're not going to take this anymore. I love Jane Fonda so much. She's endorsed our project. She's badass and she gets it, right? And so does Lily Tomlin, so does Lisa Gibbons. Yeah, I see you've got it up. And Danny Strong, who's responsible for Dope Sick. And these are people that get it. They get how important it is for people to come together as a collective and say, no more. That's it. We can't.
And it's just, it's just amazing when I look at this, like how many, it's all over the country. It's just the amount of money that these companies are pocketing. A 2023 study found that nationwide in 2019, nursing homes paid the related parties 11.23 billion, not really billion. 9.54% of nursing homes' total net operating revenues were paid to the. It's absolutely bananas. These related party transactions is where they're literally hiding hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we talk about it's endless investigations with citation and everything else here, substantial and widespread, et cetera, et cetera. Federal Medicare cost reports in Michigan between 21 and 23, nursing homes paid 1.2 billion to related party companies. That's in one state.
That's in one state, folks.
That's in one state was 1.2 billion.
Oh no, we interviewed a whistleblower and we kept her shielded in our documentary. For this was a franchise in maybe I shouldn't say the state, doesn't matter. They had a judgment of $3.5 million judgment against after this 11-year case. 11 years.
11 years. So everyone has died by the end of the
report. Oh yeah, forget about that. And then they filed for bankruptcy.
They filed for bankruptcy.
And then they reopen under another name.
Wow.
And that's protocol. They do that all day long. They do it all day long.
And you went in when you first started, as you said with your mother, you were a normal, innocent person who had no idea this sort of thing was going on. You picked, as you said, it was the 5-star. You picked the good one. And then just everything went to hell in a handcart. So your documentary, you said, this is so people can learn from the hell that you went through.
Learn and
their eyes are
open-minded. Yeah, we have to look at what's going on. And it is because, listen, my mom and I used to joke about it all the time. La, 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 we're not going to die. That's for other folk, right? Come on, Mom, let's go. Let's go shopping. And my mom would go, yeah, we're not going. We're not into it, And the truth is you could joke about it all day long, but it's going to happen. And so we all look, we other it, other until we're in it. And when you're in it and it's crisis time, that's the worst time to make decisions. Like, you cannot make a good decision when you're in crisis.
Nope.
And you have to take care of yourself as a caregiver too, because it is so hard. Just the emotions alone, and then just the time that you're putting into it, and then not to achieve something for someone that you love and watch them suffer, is no one should go through that. It's life altering, to say the least.
And this is enormous now because, as we know, the boomer generation are now all into their 70s and their 80s. This is now all hitting the fan for everyone of a certain age, my age, whose parents are. This is only going to increase. And I imagine that the people who do this are seeing the profit margin from that.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And by the way, I just want to say it's not only older people in long-term care. There's people that are disabled who, by the grace of God, like any one of us could be disabled tomorrow and need to take advantage of long-term care. We did interview 3 different people, in their 40s who are having a hell of a time, awful time in long-term care, probably worse because they're vocal.
And that's true. I also, someone who's my age, people have strokes. People have strokes. People get in car accidents. People wind up in long-term care for multiple reasons, even people who are not elderly. And then what?
And then what? And also another thing, and this is something I learned as well, is that rehab centers, which are also, run under the same system.
Mm-hmm.
So many people, healthy people who are just going, maybe like you said, have a fall, they break a shoulder, they break it, and they go in for rehab,
Right.
and they don't come out.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that story so many times. My daughter went to one of her dear friend's father's funeral, who is a director, and like before his time, he had a heart attack. He was fine. He went into rehab, and every time my daughter's friend went in there to see, she goes, "Can I talk to your mom? I don't know what's going on. My dad's looking worse and worse every day. Like he was fine." And sure enough, he died. And so I've heard this story so many times. So I tried to tell people, careful with rehab as well, because rehabs they're run the same way. They're also owned.
That makes sense, because I have a friend. When I was going to interview before, like a few months ago, and then something came up, and I was talking to a friend of mine, an actress who had post a procedure gone into a rehab, older lady, but like still working, like active.
Sure.
And I talked to her. She said, I'm going to leave on Saturday. I'm going to be here so many days, and then I'm going to leave whether they say I can or not, because this place is bad news. They're abusing the patients. There's people who have not been taken to the bathroom. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on in this place. And I am out of here if I have to climb out a window, because there's something terribly, terribly wrong with this place. And she got out. She did go home and she was okay. But she said, oh no, this is how people wind up in here and don't get out. There's something wrong with this place and what they're doing to people.
Yeah, it's really so important that we that are still, healthy at knockwood and can learn about it and then speak about it and amplify it. It really is just so important, because it's a humane issue. This is a human the trope of the gray tsunami, as as we're talking about. My girlfriend just did a short film on granny dumping, which sounds so awful, right? But it is a real phenomenon, and without infrastructure that can handle the gray tsunami, that's going to happen more and more. So people go into the hospital because Medicare will take you for whatever it is, depending on what it is, for 30, 60, 90 days. But when that's done and you don't have a place to go, they're going to put you on the street and go.
That's happened here in LA. There's been things on the news where the police said, why are we finding this elderly woman wandering the streets? What is happening? They're just dumping people.
They have no place to go.
What can someone watch when you're checking out a rehab or checking out elder care, a nursing home? What can you do? Obviously we need to get legislation passed. We need to get them to budget for enforcement. That's it. Nobody wants to spend money for enforcement. I know that from the child abuse law, dealing with that. It's like, okay, pass a law. And how are we enforcing this? Are you going to pay for the police to go arrest them? No.
Right.
You see, getting enforcement, but what does someone do if now watching this, they're now completely terrified and they're like, I'm about to have surgery. I have to go to rehab. I'm about to take my mother to a nursing home. What can they at least look for? What questions can they ask to at least try to find a place where they're not going to be rocked completely?
So I wish I could give you a pat answer for that. I can't. You can go and look up. There's different organizations that will have lists of the star ratings for different nursing homes. The trouble is that they can buy those ratings.
Well, you got a 5-star. It was a train wreck, right?
So I don't want to be again Debbie Downer, but right now it's so difficult because it's really hard to decipher which one is good, which one is bad. So ask people, and then ask people that are actually involved with their family member, because when I talk to people who said this said place was great and you must get your mom in there, they weren't involved with their care.
They didn't have anybody in there.
Well, they did. They may have, but they bought the lobby is what they did. And so they felt good about it because they bought the lobby, but they weren't involved with really the caregiving and weren't there. They were there, like holiday families members, right? So where if you're very involved with your family, find out from other members of people that residents that live there, talk to
Actual
their family
customers,
and say,
actual
how are you
residents.
liking it? What do you think? Have you had any issues? Has your loved one gone to the hospital? Have they had bed sores? How many UTIs do they get? Are they enjoying themselves? Do they look like they're thriving and they're happy? And ask them. Don't rely on the lobby that looks like a hotel. Don't rely on the people that are selling you on it because, of course,
Or the staff who go, oh, it's great, it's great, it's great.
like ask
First, I'm
for
going to say it's great.
ask to walk inside and talk to the residents, talk to the residents' family members. Like I said, that's where you're going to get the truth from. And
Can you
then
also do like, I mean, if you do deep dive on the internet for things you look for and you go, okay, it's a rating. But I know that, like, for instance, when you search doctors, there's like lots of really interesting places you can find out things about your doctors. You can quickly see like complaints, and you can tell really quickly from people's rating complaints which are a bogus, somebody's whining complaint, which is like a serious complaint, especially when there's a lot of them.
the same
Um,
ones, the same kinds. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could look for that. I know that with doctors, and I found this out because my own doctor told me this because he said there's a website you can go to and
Yes.
see exactly how much money your doctor has accepted from a pharmaceutical company, because he said the representatives from pharmaceutical companies, quite sensibly, quite rightly, they
Right.
go visit doctors and they take them to lunch and say, have you tried this new fabulous
Yeah.
pill?
Yeah.
We'd
Yeah.
like you to hawk this
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And normally what happens is the doctor goes, yeah, yeah, sure, fine, whatever, give me some samples, and says, makes a decision based on competent medical care. But sometimes you go to the doctors and they say, I can get you a new set of golf clubs. I can get you a membership at a thing. They got trips, they got prizes.
Oh my God.
Wait,
Watch Dope Sick, you guys. Watch Dope
yep.
Sick. You'll see it
And
all
there's
played
doctors
out.
who take all kinds of stuff. And then when their patients come in, they go, oh, you don't want pill A, B, C, or D. You want pill X because they
Yeah,
just, somebody
that's
bought them a
good.
freaking set of golf clubs. And my old
Yeah.
doctor was like, you can look it up, because he said, you can look up and see that I allowed them to buy me a tuna sandwich, because what he does, he said, they come, I say, okay, fine, I'll go to lunch with you, but we have to eat in the cafeteria. And he says, they really hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, you can
It's a
also
good
see
restaurant.
if they have any lawsuits against them. You
Yeah.
can look up that. You can, most of us don't think about that. And that could be obviously very telling, right?
Right. Now, if you pull something up and you already see they have lawsuits, that's like, yeah, I would think that would be a giant red flag.
Although they could say, and one could say, well, those are, people who are just, wackadoo, who
Oh,
are
those were just frivolous lawsuits. They weren't
right,
about anything.
right. Those
But
are
you would see, if you looked, how many there were, and you would eventually see what they were for.
right, right. Yeah. So,
But
I
I
mean,
mean, what a deep dive. You'd have to really look. You'd have to like literally sit there and go through and read everything. Go, okay, well, here's a complaint page, but I don't know who these people are. And so you'd have to look at multiple sources. And then, as you said, you'd have to somehow get in there and talk to people who actually are staying there.
and actually know, yeah, you have to know what your rights are and where you can look for that. For instance, the when my mom was taken to an emergency hospital, I talk about this in the documentary. The admitting doctor told me my mom had failure to thrive. This was way early on, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" They told me she's fine. Yeah, she's failure to thrive. So what do you want to do? We intubated her. I'm like, why did you intubate her? Have her on no intubation? Like, no. Well, so you want us to remove it? I said, well, yeah. Is she really going to die? And they were
Oh,
my whole family there. We took the tube out. She looked like death warmed over. It turned out she was on a fentanyl drip.
no. Did
So
she
my
have
mom,
cancer? Was she in terrible pain? No.
oh,
Wait,
and I
what?
so
Why would you be
I didn't even
fentanyl drug?
notice because I'm like a basket case because my mommy's dying and I wasn't prepared
Right, because
for it.
you're not looking for that.
No, and my niece came in and said, Aunt Susie, Mom, Nanny's not feeling anything because she's on a fentanyl drip. And I was like, why? I called the doctor, who, by the way, I never saw. I said, why is she on a fentanyl drip? Well, she's allergic to morphine. First of all, no, she's not. Second of all,
No, and why is she on a
why
morphine
does
drug?
she need to be on that? So, I said, when do you suppose she's going to pass away? And he said, in a couple hours to a day tops. 4 days go by. She has no water, no oxygen, no food, nothing. She's not dying. She wakes up through the fentanyl drip and is like smiling. And I'm going, I called the doctor. I go, we don't feel good about this. Something's wrong. And so I said, he goes, well, her organs have probably shut down by now, and there's no turning back. I said, well, I'm sure there's a test for that. Can you test her?
You're just saying probably, you can check.
Right. So he goes, well, you just start this whole thing all over again. Just going to have to be hospitalized. I said, what are you talking about? Stop, stop, stop. I don't know what you're talking about. Just take the test and find out where she's at. So, I told my daughter we had gone to take a shower after 3 days, right? And I said, we're not taking the shower. Let's go back there because I don't feel good. Something's wrong. I go back there. My mom is out again, like not up anymore. And I look and the fentanyl drip still dripping. And then the nurse flies in and she goes, well, I'm taking your mom off fentanyl, doctor's orders. And the doctor calls me and he goes, hey, I've been thinking about what you said. And he goes, I don't think we have a right to euthanize your mom. And then, as far as I know, it's not legal in this state.
What?
And I was like, wait, first of all,
where was the part about euthanize?
Yeah. And so that was
from?
when my heart went into my stomach and I was like, I knew I felt something wrong. So, and I'm telling you all this story because I later found out after, going and talking to professionals, they did a deep search on him and he was on probation for drug and alcohol use, that doctor.
Hence the fentanyl drip. Right. We don't know until it's horrifying. Okay. So how do people get hold of you? Shockingly, we're running out of time. How do people get hold of you? How do they see the documentary?
And okay, see the documentary. Please go just watch it. I know it's going to be hard, but I promise you won't be left horrible. It's
No
Amazon.
Country for Old People. No Country for Old People. It's on Amazon and apparently multiple other.
A bunch of other things, Hoopla, and it's going to be on a bunch of other. So now, anyway, follow us. Follow me, Susie Singer Carter. I'm on all of the platforms, all the social medias, and then there's also No Country for Old People. You'll find that it might say doc after it, might say film after it, but we're on TikTok and Insta and Facebook and X and and YouTube, and you'll find us and watch it. And if you feel like it was worthy and worthwhile, please review and rate because that will tell Amazon to push it out more. And documentaries are not money makers; they're change makers. So that's what I'm here to do.
All right. Thank you. This has been absolutely horrifying, but thank you for bringing this out. I have so many friends who are going through this right now. And this is information people desperately need because I said you went to the 5-star and it was still completely ghastly. Thank you. All right. So this is the Alison Arnold Show. That was Susie Singer Carter. Thank you. Thank you.
We're off.
It's okay. We're off. Okay.
Thank you, Alison, so much.
Thank you. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, I knew reading this, I was like, holy shit. And I watched the teaser thing. So I knew it was going to be horrifying. And I have a friend in New York who went through this whole thing. I mean, he had a whole saga. He was all on Facebook. And I met his mom. I was